I always say the wrestlers provide the music and the announcers write the lyrics. You have to feel what you're seeing and experiencing to write the best lyrics. That's a quote from Jim Ross, maybe the greatest wrestling announcer of all time. And as pertains to announcers, WWE is shaking things up. Again. I'm Ryan Joy and I run MinutesToBellTime.com, a website and database tracking pro wrestling from around the world. On today's show, we're talking about Adnan Virk's recent departure from WWE and where WWE goes from here. John Smith is in the house, and this is the Daily Wrestling News Show for May 26, 2021, where we sort through all the bullshit in pro wrestling news to bring you the truth. All right, John, we're powered by the Eastern Observer. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. Always good to be on the show.
Absolutely. So the big news story that broke yesterday, among other news stories, but the biggest one I think is that WWE and Adnan Virk have parted ways, and this comes after just 7 weeks together. So he started the day after WrestleMania. He did 7 weeks of programming, and that was it.
Yeah, it was a very short marriage. To be honest with you, he was just another Michael Cole clone to me, like Todd Phillips and, a couple other guys whose names I don't even remember. It's just, a little too generic for my taste, but I figured that would be right up Vince's alley. So I was kind of confused by this one.
Yeah, so here's the situation. And Adnan Virk, just to give people like some background on him, it's got kind of an interesting career. He worked for ESPN for many years, and then he was let go on February 1st of 2019 for leaking information to the media. He was the longtime host of Baseball Tonight. So now Virk has sort of an expanded portfolio of things that he does. He works at DAZN and other things, and has this WWE job, or had. He was let go yesterday. They said WWE and Adnan Virk have mutually agreed to part ways. WWE thanks Adnan for his work. And then Virk said on Twitter that the weekly travel along with his many other jobs was a grind for him and his family. So it's kind of like, mutually agreed to part ways. Maybe that's exactly what happened here. But WWE did not wish him the best in his future endeavors. They just said, thanks. So
yeah, I guess you have to be there for a certain period of time to be wished the best in your future endeavors. I don't know.
I guess so. It's interesting because there were people that gave him credit for the work that he did. He came into a very difficult situation because he's not like a wrestling guy. He didn't know wrestling well. And so he kind of came in and tried to do that job. And people said that he was very committed to learning and very committed to getting better and stuff like that. But you know what? He didn't. He just didn't get better. But I don't think that if there's people out there that think Monday Night Raw is not good, replacing Adnan Virk's not going to make it better. So.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're putting in Mauro Ranallo, that might put more eyes on the product. But they need better angles to draw people in there, not a commentary shakeup.
Do you have thoughts on who from the WWE, list of announcers should take that spot?
I'm not too familiar with all their names, but I really like the guy that does NXT.
Vic Joseph.
I'd rather Vic Joseph. I'd rather him stay on NXT, but I could see them calling him up. I could see them moving Michael Cole back over and then switching it up on SmackDown, because I think in their minds they still think Michael Cole would be some sort of draw on Raw.
Yeah, Michael Cole's their A guy, right? I think he's a vice president of that announcing division or whatever. But Vic Josephs was there before, and I think he did a great job. He's actually very talented, I think. And so was Tom Phillips, who was there directly before Adnan Virk. I actually didn't think there was anything wrong with Tom Phillips in that position. And Ian Riccaboni, who is the longtime voice of Ring of Honor at this point, he actually went to Twitter and said, Vic Joseph and Tom Phillips are very, very good. And there are other folks in that pipeline that probably are too. So Tom Phillips to me seems like the most logical choice just because he was doing it for months and he can very easily slide in. And then I've also heard of there's a guy named Jimmy Smith who is actually in the NXT group that has been, I think he started with Stand and Deliver and he might have been backstage or whatever, but he's been working very hard to come up to speed, and there's a possibility with his credentials and things from the past that he might get slid in there. But Adnan Virk came in because he was a Nick Khan guy. That was a Nick Khan choice as he's trying to sort of, appeal to outside people that aren't wrestling fans, familiar face if you're a sports fan or whatever. But he was kind of rejected from pro wrestling fans. So.
Yeah, I don't think that's what pro wrestling fans are looking for, or even the fringe fan that likes sports isn't like, oh, now that it's got more credibility because Adnan Virk from Baseball Tonight is involved. It's still people aren't stupid. They still know what the product is and that it's Vince McMahon running the show.
Right. Who in your opinion you think is sort of the best? Who has been the best on Raw? Is it Jim Ross? Is it Vince McMahon himself? Or is it one of these guys that we've had recently?
It's definitely Jim Ross all time. I love Jim Ross. And Joey Styles is classic. He could do, he's the only guy that I've ever seen do a one-man show behind that booth. I'm sure that it happens in smaller federations, but yeah, those two. I love Samoa Joe. I loved what he was doing. I don't know why they let him go. Maybe because he wanted to get back in the ring and they wanted him to stay on commentary. That's the only thing I could think of, because it's they couldn't have been upset with his commentary.
No, it was
maybe his contract was too high for just being a commentary guy. Who knows? But I really wish he was still around.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting because they recently, just to kind of summarize, Pat McAfee was added to SmackDown with Michael Cole the week after WrestleMania, and so that moved Corey Graves over. Corey and Byron are now the number 2 and number 3 guys, with the play-by-play guy of Adnan Virk on Raw. And so now they have to figure out who they're going to plug in. Apparently they're keeping whatever information they have. If there's been a decision, it's being held very tight to the vest. So there's no news on that yet. But they have so many people. They've got Nigel McGuinness. They've got Vic Josephs, we talked about. Tom Phillips, we've talked about. This Jimmy Smith guy that's coming up. They have, the other UK commentary team. So they've got a ton of people in that pipeline.
What about Daniel Bryan?
Hey, there you go. Daniel Bryan, I thought he was very good during the Cruiserweight Classic years ago.
Yeah, it could be his way to get back on Raw. I don't know if he even had a new contract. Has that been a thing yet?
Nobody knows.
We don't know. Yeah. If they're being secretive about it, that seems like it could be a possibility.
Sure. And it's tough though, because that is it's the conductor, right? The play-by-play guy is the guy who's doing the transitions and things like that. It's not the color guy. But Corey Graves, I think, can do a lot of that stuff just because he's been doing it for a while. So even if they brought in a new person in that role, I think that's why Corey was there for Adnan, is that he could help during those things. So yeah, we shall see. I'm optimistic. I think it's going to be a good move, whatever it is, because people were really down on Adnan Virk. They didn't like that he didn't know wrestling moves and that he called things the wrong way. And he asked Byron Saxton about, hey, tell us about that great time when there was Kofi Mania. It was ages ago, and it was literally 2 years ago tops.
2 years ago, yeah.
We're still living off of Kofi Mania a little bit. So
right.
And then, Al Carl chiming in, Adnan Virk better suited as an anchor rather than a play-by-play guy. You know what? Adnan Virk would have been good for that Renee Young show that Renee was doing on Backstage, it was called, on FS1. He would have been fine in that role, probably, because that's what that is.
Yeah.
An anchor at a desk, like Al says. Okay, well, we have a bunch of other news to get into. That was our top story. Of course, Adnan Virk is out, but there's other stuff that was going on in terms of staffing at WWE yesterday. He wasn't the only cut. There were massive layoffs in WWE's international, advanced media, and digital divisions and studios. So to summarize what happened, advanced media and digital were combined under Kevin Dunn to one organization that reduces redundancy within departments. WWE Studios, which is your film and TV, they had several different divisions that were streamlined into one single organization. And then the international staff, they have headquarters in different markets across the world. They were also streamlined. Staffers were let go, and everybody's going to be reporting directly to Nick Khan now to bring alignment with what's going on at WWE HQ. So these are huge Nick Khan changes. And we knew, I think we said a few weeks ago or months ago that Nick Khan came in and, he's making changes, and they've given him a lot of rope. He is making a lot of changes in the product. Well, not in the product, but in the company. So
yeah, in the background, he's all the moving parts that you don't see. So maybe it'll translate into a cleaner product that we do see.
Well, one of the things is that this advanced media and digital. So the advanced media group was sort of all your like social platforms and things like that, all the stuff that they've done in that area. So that has been like a new revenue stream for them over the last couple of years. But I think now they must feel like they have consistency and a process in place, and that they can combine it under the digital group as well. And they don't have to have multiple graphic designers and things working in, so you're going to see some continuity in graphics between both the digital and the advanced media type of stuff. So,
right.
So yeah, I think there's some consistency there.
Hopefully they can add a rewind function to live Peacock Network stuff, because it's very upsetting that I can't start from the beginning when I'm 20 minutes late to a pay-per-view. I just gotta say, I'll watch the first match after,
Yeah, if they're laying off people that were working on the WWE Network, they should send them to Peacock.
Right?
Peacock needs to roll out those features, because that man is ticking off people. The worst part is if you start a pay-per-view late, right? And you want to start from the beginning, and you can't. You have to join a match in progress. That's annoying. So
yeah, it takes away from it, and then you don't go back and watch that first match, because they've definitely mentioned who won it, like for the rest of the show, so you already know what happened.
Exactly. Okay, well, that was the main story. Like I said, we had Adnan Virk got cut, all these other WWE layoffs. This has been kind of a trend, and I think we're probably going to continue to see Nick Khan shape the company in a new way as president. And he also just bought a really expensive house, which you can Google and find pictures of. So it's beautiful. So hopefully he invites all the fans over for a barbecue or something. But in the meantime, let me tell you how you can help us have our own barbecues on for the Daily Wrestling News Show staff. If you love the Daily Wrestling News Show, then I want to tell you how you can support us. First, check out bodyslamclothes.com. You can get a variety of shirts for just $20, and all of them come in the super soft style, and the price you see includes all sizes and shipping. Get 10% off 2 or more shirts with the promo code. I kicked myself out of studio. So we're going to cut the commercial short. We'll go straight back into
live TV.
Okay, so the next news item, Fightful Select reported that the Stadium Stampede match will have a substantial live element to it this time. So if people remember last year's Stadium Stampede, it was all taped, so it would have been shown on the video screen for anybody that was there live. But this year, I guess they're going to do the Stadium Stampede, but at some point they must be working their way back into Daly's place. So I think that's a good addition or a good change.
Yeah, you almost have to if there's going to be fans there. You don't want everybody just staring at a screen for 45 minutes. It's going to be a long match. I had experience staring at a screen for way too long at the Raw 25th anniversary, where it was at 2 arenas, and I can tell you it just sucks the life out of the crowd.
Yeah, and it must have been like that recently when they did Blood and Guts. But I guess because Blood and Guts was sort of the main, maybe people were okay. They watched, so it's kind of like watching TV and then being there for the main attraction, I guess. But yeah, I hope that this, I don't know if the Stadium Stampede is going to be the main event like it was at last year's Double or Nothing, or if it'll be sort of the middle of the show. But how is it not a long match, right? It's got to be forever long, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got 10 guys, and then they all got to get their stuff in, and they're all going to have their special spots. So that's 25 minutes right there, and then the rest of it is the normal wrestling,
I wonder if it'll be like WrestleMania 12's Hollywood Backlot Brawl, where they start it, and then, they get to a point and they just cut away and they do up more matches, and then eventually it comes back. They come back to them fighting into the arena or something. I wonder if that'll be how they do it, so that it's maybe they start it, it's the first thing, and then we see clips throughout the night. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And then they'll randomly just start fighting towards the ring in between a couple matches, so then they have to just let them fight, and then they wrestle back off for a little while. But yeah. I don't think they're going to do that, unfortunately. It's a good idea, but I think they're just going to give us one long 45-minute thing.
Yeah. It's a huge card, though. Man, it is so big. They've got like 8 or 9 matches. I fully expect this to be a 4-hour show. I don't know how it gets less than that. So, in terms of AEW Dynamite, again, Dynamite is on Friday this week, so there's no Dynamite tonight. But next week, Dynamite's also on Friday. So they're going to have that schedule flipping around for the next couple of weeks, I think. But yes, Dynamite both this week and next week will be on Friday.
So that's because of basketball?
One of those other sports games. Yeah.
One of those fake games.
Yeah. One of those ones that has no drama or something.
Yeah. Oh, right. Cool.
They're so predictable. So Trevor Murdoch won a battle royal on last night's episode of NWA Power. He'll be the one who faces Nick Aldis next for the 10 pounds of gold. That'll be at their pay-per-view upcoming When Our Shadows Fall. So, John, I know you know who Nick Aldis is, but Trevor Murdoch, you probably know who he is too from WWE days. Not the most exciting main event, to be honest.
No, who was he? I remember the name, but I don't even remember. I can't visualize him. Whoa.
Trevor Murdoch. That's what his name was in WWE too. I think
he was part of a tag team. He was a manager or anything.
Yeah, he was part of a tag team. It was him and Garrison Cade, I think, as a tag team.
What was this in the mid 2000s or something?
Sure. Yeah,
right, that's probably the time period where I wasn't watching very, very religiously.
So he is, listen, he's a fine wrestler trained by Harley Race. Nothing wrong with him. He's just not a marquee name. And the problem is NWA doesn't really have one. They have one other. It's Thunder Rosa. And the two of them shall never meet in the ring, I don't think. Thunder Rosa had her match with Kamille last night, and the winner of that match was supposed to get an NWA championship match. And if Thunder Rosa lost, she wasn't allowed to wrestle outside of NWA. Well, they wrestled to a time limit draw, so I have no idea what that means. But at 20 minutes, it has to be the longest match in Power history, because Power matches usually go about 4 minutes. So.
Oh, wow.
Then I have an update for you regarding New Jersey, John.
Oh, yeah?
Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss, Jersey's own. All is not well. Sonny Kiss wrestled Brian Cage on the end of AEW Dark last night, and Team Taz attacked Sonny Kiss after the match, and Joey Janela took a walk. He did not come to Sonny Kiss's aid. So Jersey's favorite tag team doesn't look to be doing well.
Uh-oh. Wow. We're going to have to pick sides on this one? I don't know.
Well, let's get into NXT from last night, because there was definitely some newsworthy stuff. We have still our NXT champion, Karrion Kross. He defeated Finn Balor last night in a great main event that ran into overtime. At any point during the match, did you think Finn Balor might walk away? with the championship.
Not a chance in hell. And that was like a big point for me is I'm sick of these world title matches on every show, not just NXT or all WWE. It happens in AEW and
everywhere.
Even Impact a little bit. These televised, we know they're not changing hand. The title's not changing hands in these matches, and it takes a lot away from it. You know, like the Kyle O'Reilly thing, and then with this, then you got all the stuff that happens over in AEW when random guys get title shots, and then it hasn't happened randomly since Tommaso Ciampa beat Aleister Black back like over 3 years ago, where it was like, oh my God, did that just really happen on TV? Yeah. Except for like, they have stuff where it's built up. Like, yeah, we knew Kofi was losing to Brock Lesnar on the first SmackDown. I don't count that, but like just a random title change like that, they need more of they need that to happen once in a while, or else we're never going to believe that the title is going to change hands.
Yeah. There was, Brody Lee beating Cody. That's, maybe didn't know exactly that was going to happen.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about world titles.
Okay. World title. Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah. World titles. Yeah. It happens a lot with Intercontinental, US. Yeah. And I get it. Like the main titles should be won and lost on pay-per-view, but then don't have those matches on TV, Yeah.
The biggest one recently, I think, is Kenny Omega winning the AEW championship. He actually won that on TV, but we all kind of knew it was happening. And I think that's your point, right? Is that it wasn't a big surprise.
And that was before fans were back. So TV and pay-per-view were kind of the same at that point. And there was also like a war where like they had to put their best foot forward every few weeks or so with like a big show. Like, Keith Lee won his title on TV also, but that was like the Great American Bash. It wasn't just a regular NXT,
True. Those were the pay-per-view style TV shows. Yep.
Yeah.
So Karrion Kross's next challenger is going to be determined in a triple threat match next week. It's going to be either Gargano or Riley or Pete Dunne. And I assume this is going to be in your house. And I don't see any of those guys beating Karrion Kross either.
Yeah, same here. I think they're going to give it to
Pete Dunne that wins.
Probably Pete Dunne. I mean, I can see them doing Kyle O'Reilly, because that would just be a nice, slugfest. But so would Pete Dunne.
Yes.
So
what about Johnny Gargano? He vacated that title for a reason, right?
He vacated the title. I was like, wait, did he vacate? Oh no, Bronson Reed won that. Yeah. I mean, there is a backstory because what's his face? I always forget his name.
Loomis?
No. Austin Theory.
Yeah.
Well, when they went and give him the double kicks and whatnot, there's a backstory there, so I could see them doing that. It's good that all three of these guys are formidable opponents. Then we don't know who's going to win.
Right. We don't know who's going to be the next challenger, but we can pretty well think that Karrion Kross will be mowing over any one of them when it comes time.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before he drops that belt, and I can't imagine who it's going to be too, unless they stretch it out so far that it's like Dexter Loomis or something.
Yeah, somewhere way down the road. Maybe Volter. I don't know.
Wow.
Frankie Monet made her debut with a win over Cora Jade. What did you think of the whole presentation? Right, to me, it was exactly what you expect from Frankie Monet.
Yeah, I was very taken aback by that giant jacket / gown / whatever that she was wearing. I was like, I don't think that's going to stand the test of time, her coming down with that every single time. But if she does, more power to her. I'd like to see her bring the dog out and have the dog just running around the ring during the matches. But that would probably take the focus off of the in-ring action. So maybe that's something for down the line. But
she needs a handler like she had before, with Johnny Bravo. She needs a handler to bring the dog out.
Right.
Although when they get into big live crowds again, I don't know if the dog might get scared of all that, but I'm sure they can get one trained. Raquel Gonzalez, she confirmed that she is not turning face. I think that's what we got from the end of that match between Raquel, Dakota, and Shotzi and Ember.
Yeah, I kind of thought that they were going to start the rift between Dakota and Big Mommy Cool, but I guess that's for further down the line. We might even get like Raquel versus Shotzi versus Ember in a 3-way where she could stack them kind of like Roman Reigns or something like that.
She should. Raquel is formidable. I think that'd be kind of nice.
Absolutely.
And then Ted DiBiase, he appears to be aligning himself with L.A. Knight and not Cameron Grimes. So
that was perfect. And somehow Cameron Grimes came out the baby face out of all of that.
Yes.
You know, we got the awe, and that was a genuine awe from the crowd when he said that he looked up to him. And then he just got the rug swept out from underneath him. He got his basketball kicked away at 9.
He did. He's like, it's just the whole commentary from Grimes was hysterical. It's like, I didn't know, until recently that you could kick a basketball away from a kid and still people would like you because you got money. People would like you no matter what you do. I didn't know it. Oh, Ted DiBiase talking about the $1 million legacy. It sure seems like that $1 million championship belt's coming back, doesn't it? Isn't that what the legacy is?
It is. Could they do it? Absolutely. I would love to see that LA Knight holding that belt. The last person to hold that belt was who? The ringmaster, Steve Austin.
Yeah.
And then before that, I guess it was Virgil for a little while because they had a little feud between the two of them, but it was always just $1 Million Man, and then Austin had it for a little bit. So like it's a good little lineage to be a part of if LA Knight can wear that over his shoulder and around his waist, even if it's not recognized technically.
Yeah, but which belt's better, FTW or the $1 Million Championship?
Historically, I would say the FTW belt, but they're not really doing much with it on Cage. He's not defending it or anything like that. So,
yeah. Well, let's hope for the best for the $1 million legacy for sure. All right. Also, Pete Dunne got a win over Bobby Fish, and that they set up Oni Lorcan versus Bobby Fish, kind of down the road, and then Mercedes Martinez defeated Zeta in Action Ramir, and that was a quick match.
Yeah, I thought her name was Zion Ruff.
That's right, Zion Ruff. Yep. And then let's see. So finally on NXT, next week we have that triple threat match to determine Karrion Kross's #1 contender, and then we also have MSK versus Legado del Fantasma. That'll be for the NXT Tag Team Championships. So 2 big matches for next week.
Yeah, I love seeing that Santos is coming after Bronson Reed, man. Just like we were calling, he's going to start climbing that ladder. Maybe he'll be the one to take the belt off of Karrion Kross in about a year or so eventually.
So I have to say, my mom tipped me off to a wrestling story this morning, and I had kind of known it was there, but I didn't really know how mainstream the story had gotten, and that's the John Cena story that he's been in recently. So we'll get to that in a second. Of course, the Taiwan and the China thing. But first and foremost, John, has your son or you watched Wipeout with John Cena yet on television?
I don't know if my son has watched it. I'm sure he's come across it on his YouTube adventures. I watched like half an episode, like the end of one. I just caught it. And I was like, oh, I'll check it out. It's cool. It's just like any other one of these shows. The Miz had one. Cody Rhodes has one, right?
They're all pretty bad, right? I mean, it's like
yeah, I like the one that was old that had the Japanese people, but it was dubbed over in English, but it was like all funny stuff. That used to come on either before or after Raw years and years and years ago. I loved that one.
Yeah, and I think that if this was dubbed over with stuff that was funny, it'd be better too. But
yeah, the co-host has some funny lines sometimes, but she's a little too like. It's all the jokes she's making are about herself.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the real John Cena news that hit yesterday was that he was doing a promotional video for Fast 9, the movie coming out, and he called Taiwan a country. He basically was saying that Taiwan's the first country that'll be able to see this. And China blew up and got mad at him because they believe that Taiwan's, well, independently governed is part of their territory. So John Cena went on social media and he apologized. He said, he basically said that he was sorry to the Chinese people and that he loves the Chinese people and he loves China and all that. He spoke in Mandarin, and for that, he has been called pathetic and gutless and everything else under the sun because, he apologized to China and he did what Hollywood has always done, and that's bow down to the Chinese market.
They will bow down to the Chinese government. That's the thing. Like, this has nothing to do with the Chinese people. It's not anything like that. It's about their communist government and the way that they censor everything and they make sure everything is, a certain way for their people and denying things that's happened in the past. I don't know if I'm going to have to apologize to China after this episode or else we might get canceled. But
I don't know if YouTube's even in China, Facebook or YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah, true.
But Apple Podcasts is, so we better keep it on the DL. But he was sharply criticized by politicians and people in media and everything like that. Basically, Taiwan's been a sovereign, democratically controlled country for a long time, and they're kind of under China's thumb. So a lot of people don't like that he bowed down to them, and it's historically it's been happening for a long time where American business does this. Even the general manager of the Houston Rockets in 2019 tweeted support for Hong Kong's democratic protests, and he issued an apology as well. So John Cena's not the first one to do it, but every time somebody big like John Cena does it, they're going to fall under sharp criticism because,
I could see where the Houston Rockets guy is coming from because he's not a multi-millionaire like John Cena. Like, he was protecting his job, and he had to, lose some respect from a lot of people to do that. But with John Cena, he is John Cena. He has so much money already. Like, the fact that he would need to do this and like go back on the words that he said, and what about the people of Taiwan? Does he not respect them and love them? Because I'm sure they have a much different perspective than the people of than the government of China.
What's interesting, and this is John Cena being a very well-spoken individual. He never said, "I'm sorry that I called Taiwan a country." He apologized to the Chinese people and to China. He never used those words. So he just is. You could kind of read it as, "I'm sorry I offended you," type of apology. Now, we all know what he meant, but it's kind of, and what he was bowing down to, but he used his words very carefully.
That changes it a little bit for me. I'm guilty of just being a headline reader on this one and, just discussing it with others. I didn't, see the video or, read a transcript. If he didn't denounce the fact that Taiwan is a country, then it makes it a little better. He's just like, going through the motions, like, sorry, I said, exactly what you said. Sorry, I offended you, but like, sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes it a little better, but it's still, it's a lot of kids look up to him too, and it could be perceived the wrong way by them, like, oh, you're bowing down to a communist country. Communism must be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great point. All right, John, anything else that we need to discuss this morning? Any words of advice for John Cena or anybody?
Oh, no, I have more words of advice about moving, and it's don't take the time you have between your move, between now and the time you have to move for granted, because I haven't packed anything but my kitchen that I was bitching about last week that I don't have anything to cook with. So now I have to I got to have everything done by Saturday, and it's Wednesday now, and I have to have everything moved except for the big stuff by myself. So it's going to be a tough 3 days ahead of me. So plan ahead when you're moving. Figure things out.
I have a little bit of advice for people too, and that's if you are a pro wrestler and you are driving down the road in the year 1987, maybe don't be drinking beer while you're driving because as Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Iron Sheik both experienced on this day in 1987, you'll get pulled over. You'll also get tickets for drinking beer while driving and for possession of cocaine and marijuana. And if you don't tell your company afterwards, you're probably going to get fired, which is what happened to the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan in 1987. So clean it up, guys. Clean it up.
And it effectively ended the Sheik's wrestling career, and then Hacksaw Jim Duggan went on to win the first Royal Rumble.
Yeah, Duggan would come back 2 months later. The Sheik was fired, and he did return as Colonel Mustafa a few years later, but it pretty much was the end of his run in WWE. So,
yeah. Now he just makes a living off of hating Hulk Hogan on social media.
Jabroni.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Now, I am going to go ahead and tell you all the different ways that you can support the Daily Wrestling News Show at the end of the show today. That got messed up sort of in the beginning. So here's that video, and then we will see you tomorrow. If you love the Daily Wrestling News Show, then I want to tell you how you can support us. First, check out bodyslamclothes.com. You can get a variety of shirts for just $20, and all of them come in the super soft style, and the price you see includes all sizes and shipping. Get 10% off 2 or more shirts with the promo code SHIRTS10. Go to bodyslamclothes.com right now to check it out. And join Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca on Friday nights for the Primetime Rundown. They take you through the world of sports. The show kicks off at 6 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And each Tuesday, Al Carl hosts the Essential Wrestling Podcast alongside John Smith, myself, John DeConnie, and Gary Mahaffey. It's another week of updates and highlights in the world of wrestling. Hear our analysis on who we think is going to win the week's matches. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And Pro Wrestling Pick'em. It's a place where you can join or host a Pick'em League to test your predictive skills in the world of pro wrestling. Create an account and join a league now at ProWrestlingPick'em.com so you can play against your friends or play against the universe. And the Body Slam Brigade newsletter, currently going out to over 4,200 people each Friday. It consolidates all the top stories in professional wrestling into a quick-to-read email written by me for you for free. Sign up now at BodyslamBrigade.com. And of course, this show, the Daily Wrestling News Show. We're here every day, Monday through Thursday, and occasionally on Friday. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or watch us live on Facebook and YouTube at 10 a.m. This is the Daily Wrestling News Show, and we thank you for your support.